Welcome
to another episode of What
in the What? All right, we are back with another episode. We are happy to be back on YouTube.
Yeah,
I am one of your hosts, Minister Lasay Simpson.
I'm your other host, Pastor Gary Shelton Jr. This young lady to my left is
Minister Antoinette Williams.
Hey.
All right.
You heard her voice on Joy 1340 with us. She's been there, so she's new to the YouTube experience, and we are delighted to have her. Shout out to her husband, Brother Wesley, working that camera for us.
Yeah.
Thankful for him today being in the place. We honor him for being here today. What we got going for the people today?
Oh, we ain't been back in a while, so I think we owe them something good.
All right, what we got?
We owe you something good. Today we're going to discuss worship.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Hallelujah.
See that? Once you hear that word, something clicks in your mind.
That's right.
Of what should be happening and what shouldn't be happening. So we might discuss both today, both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
I don't know. Worship is one of those things that you really need to define but can't define.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to define it so that you know, yeah, that's not it.
Yeah.
But you can't define it because you can't really tell somebody if
they're doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I
your
think,
hands ain't up. I see your pinky.
I think for beginners, myself, for worship, all I knew was you were supposed to do this. This was my big thing
arms
for
out.
worship. Yeah, arms out.
I got to think about that.
Yeah, my church, everybody used to be like, okay.
See,
supposed to be doing it too.
I always say you could tell where somebody been worshiping because of the way their hands go up.
Really?
Yeah. Now,
You about to judge somebody?
if you hear a song and your hands go up like this, I know where you've been worshiping.
All right.
I know where you've been worshiping.
Yeah.
But if you hear a song in church and you lift your hand, that's different. Your hands go up. It's like,
You know, that's funny because on another, I often see people when a fast song comes on in church, they don't quite have a church steps because they still got the old steps. So it's like a mix of like.
What's the church steps?
You know, like when a fast song come on in church, it's more like you just kind of moving, but. You know, sometimes you still got something. So it's like
the problem is everybody at church do the same thing. It's a step clap. Step clap. Step clap.
You got that one person that like not with everybody. They still like, what are you doing?
Just came in.
Right.
I ain't supposed to be doing this.
Right.
You know. So what is worship?
What is worship? So let's go into a scripture. What the word
Let's
says.
do that.
So let's do John the 4th chapter. Let's do the 24th verse.
All right.
So that scripture says, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So you have, being that God is a spirit, you have to have God in you in order for you to worship.
Yes.
Right.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple. And I think we take it out of being simple because we typically think that worship is just what we do at church. So sometimes we may come without God being in us, and we come to church and we just do what we feel like everybody else is doing. And for me personally, I had a hard time with that. I would just kind of mimic because I really didn't grow up in church. I would mimic what everybody else was doing almost with everything. So their hands go up, my hands go. They go down, they go down. They go this way, I go this way. That's what I would do the whole time. But the Lord was really in me. I was in my word all during the week leading up to that. It was in me, but I just didn't know how to express it. And that's big because we think we need to worship the way everyone else is doing it. And God designed us to be different. So if you on the floor, hey, that's what the Lord got you doing right there.
That's right.
That's for you.
Right.
I may be hands in the air, he may be running. So I can't tell someone else that their worship is wrong because I'm not doing it that way.
Right. I think the other thing too is that you can't worship God if the presence of God is not within you.
That's huge.
You know, so a lot of times people, it's not about externally how you do it. If you don't have God on the inside of you from the beginning, you just throwing up your hands or doing whatever, and God is not pleased with any of that.
At all.
True.
And I think we have to get out of, because being in church a lot of times, you made up your mind that everything has to go a certain way.
Right.
If it's not like this, it's not like that. You got on a suit. Oh, you ain't holy. If you don't do this, you're not holy. So a lot of times, someone may come in and interrupt what you think the norm is, and they may do something different, and everybody like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you can almost take away from someone's worship experience because you're feeling like they're not doing it or acting the way that everyone else is doing it in a place. And that reminds me of, this has been this guy on social media lately, going crazy about Jesus. He like came from a gang. I don't know if you've seen any of the videos, but he like, Jesus. And a lot of people are making fun of him. And again, I don't know this brother. I can't judge what's in his heart.
I'm laughing at the guy.
Yeah, I'm not laughing at the guy, but to a lot of people it's funny because, you know, it's this ex-gang member and the way he's saying Jesus over and over is funny to a lot of people, but this guy could be really worshiping. Somebody got a video.
Absolutely.
See, I think he is
I do
really
too.
worshiping.
So do I.
But people, because it's not socially normal,
Right.
are finding it comical
And turning
the
it
way
into a thing.
Turning it right. Now he's a sideshow.
Yeah.
And to him,
He's
I love the
worshiping
Lord this much.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times too, people don't know what other people have gone through.
Right.
If you don't know my story, and I worship God, and I get on the floor and I worship Him in that way, and it's in God's spirit. The Bible says you worship God in spirit and in truth.
Yes.
Right.
Who are you to tell me that that's not worship?
Yeah.
The problem sometimes is that, like you said, when you go to church, everybody's doing the same thing, so people feel out of place doing something different.
Right.
And what you got to realize is the world is doing the same thing. Everybody doing the same dances, everybody dressing the same way, everybody looking the same way. So the spirit God gave you is way different. We have different spirits.
Right.
We dress differently. We talk different. We have different backgrounds. We have different experience. And so when it comes time to worship, we all have the same truth, and that's God. And so God uses our experience, God uses our personality, and God uses everything, our own personal spirit, to help in our worship and expressiveness toward Him. And it's not going to be the same. Somebody might hit the floor like, you don't know what it took for me to swallow my pride and hit this floor.
Right.
That was me. And you never know also what level someone is at in their worship experience. Me coming in really being new, not knowing a lot, I had to get to that point of worship where I lose myself with the Lord for me and not worry about what other people may have been saying about me inward. Because I was too worried about being in church and somebody might be watching me fall out on the floor. But the Lord was really pushing me to the floor. But I can't fall on the floor. Bro, like, what you see doing over there on the floor? Like, that was my mindset. And so it took a mission trip for me to Costa Rica to actually lose myself. The spirit was so high in the place, and I was still trying to, you know, our pastor and everybody was going, and I was still trying to hold back because that was me. That's where I come from.
Everybody else running around.
So finally, I just lost it, man. I'm in the spirit. I'm going, and by the time I looked around, everyone else had stopped. So I'm still going, and so then I like caught myself, but everybody was clapping because it was like, he got a breakthrough almost. And from that day forward, it was like it was a change in me that I was free to do whatever the Lord was trying to get me to do at that time.
And I think too, you know, worship is the key for us whenever we're going through trials.
Yes.
So when you're able to worship God, when you're able to just be thankful to what God has done in your life, when you go through a lot of ugly, it will make you worship.
Yeah, that's true.
When you having a hard situation, whether it's divorce, whether it's coming from an abusive situation, and God places you in that space, you will worship God.
Oh yeah, definitely. You start to worship is about realizing, like you say all the time, who God is, not what He did, not what somebody told you He is. But when you realize what He is, when in your heart of hearts, in your spirit, in the depths of your soul, in the recesses of your mind, all the way to before you came up with your own set of rules for knowledge, you learn that before knowledge He is, and then you go, I wouldn't have made it nowhere without Him. And then you lose all sight of everything you deem as more important, especially your ego, and you go, because me, I kind of gravitated fairly quickly because I'm an artistic person, so it wasn't tough for me to start worshiping, but worshiping in the way of the church, like, you know, how you was kind of reserved, I clown.
Yeah, I know, I seen.
I'll be on the floor. I'll be, you know, don't start the chicken man. I'm in there.
I like that. I'm with that.
I'm in there. Especially when, you know, drumming and everything, you have to be like, you got to be in the moment, in worship, because you never know who's reserved,
That's
and they're just looking like, oh, I can be free here.
Yeah.
I'm cool.
Yeah.
You know, so
absolutely. And I think whenever we talk about worship too, you know, that's our way of communicating to God.
Right.
God loves that when we worship. Worship is so important. A lot of times whenever we are in church and like you know, like what you were saying is that we see other people doing something a certain way. Be authentic.
Right.
there you
Be
go.
whoever God told you to be. And a true worshiper, that's what God told you to be.
You have just been hit with another episode of What?
In the
Word.
Feel free to comment when you see the post on YouTube. I'm on a social media hiatus right now, but you can check these two out at.
Oh, I'm Gary Shelton Jr. on Facebook.
I am Antoinette Williams on Facebook.
All right, so come find us and leave us a comment.
God bless you.